Morning, students. Today we are going to discuss what are the different types of data types in Java. So some similar data types that should be added comparing with the C and C++ programming. Within the C and C++ programming, what are the data types should be added? The same similar data types once again in this Java programming also that should be added. So now we need to discuss that concept. Okay, so each and every data type that can be most useful for writing a programming within the Java. So actually before going to start, what are the data types? To define a data type, first one. Okay, to define a data type. So data type is nothing but which is a specifies what type of value that can be stored into a variable. Okay, for example, do you want to store a student number? Okay, through programmatically I want developing a student application. In that application, what are the requirements? What type of data you want to need to insert into that applications? So for that, for example, I want to store student number. Okay, student number that should be belongs to which type of data? Integer type of data. Okay, integer type is nothing but that is a numeric value. Okay, so some specific applications need to represent some string values are there. Okay, some float values are there. Some float values are there. Such type of values that can be stored into a variable. So based on that data types concept that can be needed. What is that first one? Data type is nothing but specifies which what type of data that can be stored into a variable. Okay, it is also specifies its size. Each and every data type that can be represent some size. So what are the size? Now we need to discuss. Okay, each and every variable in Java has a data types, and Java language is rich. It's a data types, and the categories of different data types are shown below like this one. The graphical representation of data types in Java like this one. So actually data types that can be classified into two categories in the Java programming. Okay, same similar to C++ programming. Okay, so that is first one primitive data types, and the second one non-primitive data types. The primitive data types that is alternative name should be called as intrinsic data types. Okay, primitive data types alternatively should be calling as a intrinsic data type. Coming to the non-primitive data types, alternative should be calling as a derived data type. Okay, so these are the two classifications of data types in the Java programming. So in each and every classification have contains a sub data types are there. Okay, so each and every data type that can be belongs to the individual values are there. So first one, coming to the primitive or intrinsic data types that can be classified into two categories are there, which is first one numeric data type and non-numeric data type. Coming to the numeric data types, only numeric values, numbers formats that can be acceptable at the time of developing applications within the Java programming. Okay, so numeric data types classified into two categories are there, which is either integer or a float values. Sometimes we have to require to enter the float values also. Okay, for example, currencies, Indian currencies that can be represents to developing the application form. So that can be present. What is the value? Float value that have chosen for that. What is that? Currencies value, and integer that can be represented normally in numbers format that can be accepted. So both are comes under in the numeric numbers format values that can be belongs to numeric formats and non-numeric formats. So means what? So generally, for example, in the applications, do you want inserting either characters or any Boolean values or any string values? Okay, so that can be belongs to what is a non-numeric. Okay, so that is also classified into two categories, which is either characters or Boolean values. So characters is nothing but individual single characters. So combinations of characters is nothing but string values. Okay, string values also that can belongs to in the non-numeric types. And what are the Boolean is nothing but what is that? That can be represent two values are there. Sometimes at the time of developing an application, so we have to choose an from both values to choose only one option is there, that is represent Boolean that can be represent two values are there. What is that? First one either true or false. True is nothing but on operation, false is nothing but off operation. At the time of application, so we need to require this type of data types we have to using. Okay, Boolean data types. Coming to the non-primitive data types. So non-primitive data types that can be classified into three categories are there. Okay, alternatively, which is also called as a derived data type. That is first one classes, and second interfaces, and third arrays. Okay, classes, interfaces, and arrays. So based on each and every Java program, need to start with the classes. Without a class declaration, we can't write the Java programming. The class declarations that can be manageable, the main methods, and what are those? And functions, variables, whatever thing, each and every components that can be belongs to within the classes, and interfaces also that can be presented within the Java programming, and arrays also that can be comes under the Java programming data type. Arrays is also to introduce in the purpose of inserting a multiple values or managing the multiple values into a single variable purpose introduce arrays concept. The next, these are the some specifically size of each and every data type that can be comes under available in tabular format is there. This is the type declaration of data type, and what are the memory representations in bytes, and how much values source and destinations means what start and ending values, what are the size representations of each and every value that can be arranged in tabular format. Now we need to discuss this table. First one, so actually minimum memory size that can be represented starting within the bytes. Okay, so this is a byte memory, 1 byte. Okay, so what is that? Byte that can be acceptable. Okay, 1 byte that can be acceptable, the value from minus 128 to plus 127. Okay, in this byte data type, byte is one of the data type. This byte data type that can be acceptable negative values and also what is that, positive values. Come to the negative values, what are the limitations? Minus up to 128, and negative positive values up to 127. In between numbers only that can be acceptable by the data type byte within the Java programming. Coming to the short data type, it will be acceptable 2 bytes of memory. Okay, 2 bytes of memory. 1 byte is nothing but 8 bits representation. Minimum memory representations of bits formats. Okay, combinations of collection of 8 bits is called as a 1 byte. And here short data type that can be acceptable, how much memory? 2 bytes of memory that can be acceptable. So coming to the values limitations from negative values up to minus 32,768 to, and positive values up to 32,767. These are the limitations of accessing the value by the short data type. Okay, the next one, integer data type. So do you want initialization much more values? Okay, so for that we have to choose the data type integer value. Okay, right, integer value, integer data type that can be acceptable 4 bytes of memory. Okay, 4 bytes of memory, and limitations values up to minus 2000 minus 2 to the power of 31 to minus 2 to the power of 31 minus 1. These are the calculations acceptable by the integer data type within the Java programming. The next long data type that can be acceptable 8 bytes of memory, and the values limitations up to minus 2 power 63 to plus 2 power 63 minus 1. These are the limitations of a long data type. Okay, these are the limitations of data types, integer types data types. Okay, the next, coming to the float points data type. Already we know that what is a float pointer. So what are the points values can be acceptable in the applications. So for that we need to require the floating point type data types. Okay, floating point data types that can be is always acceptable, points values are there. The next from the float values, so what are the limitations that can be acceptable in the requirements of application development? Okay, so what are the first type? Float type that can be acceptable, how much memory? 4 bytes of memory in the Java programming. And what are the maximum and minimum value? The maximum value up to 3.4e minus 038 to 3.4e plus 038. These are the values limitations of minimum and maximum values. Okay, the next, coming to the double data type that can be acceptable 8 bytes of memory, 8 bytes of memory from, and maximum value 1.7e to 308 to 1.7e plus 308. Okay, minus 308 to plus 308. These are the limitations of double data types. And coming to the character type, Java provides a data types which is called as a character to hold character values. It is of size 2 bytes only and assumes a single character that can be acceptable in Java programming. The characters values must be enclosed in a only single quotations. Okay. Java, the characters values must be enclosed in a single quotations. Mandatory should be following in the Java programming, the purpose of to developing an application. So the next, finally, Boolean type, it can be have only two values are there, either that is true or false representations. True is always that can be on the positions, and false is representation of the positions that can be presented by using Boolean data types. It's required, its keyword is a Boolean and use only 1 bit of memory that can be acceptable by this type of data type. Only 1 bit of memory that can be acceptable by this Boolean data type, and all comparisons of operations written so Boolean type values are there. These words true and false, it cannot be used identifiers. These are the some related different types of data types in the supporting of to developing applications. We need to using this type of data types so in the purpose of developing applications, either small or major embedded applications within the Java programming. Okay, these are the important long answer question. So maybe it will come in the final examination as a long answer question. Okay, thank you.